Hi everyone, this is Hardy. In this lecture we will be expanding on our discussion of basic Photoshop operations by looking at some filters that can come in handy in our digital painting work. So I've loaded up a photograph. I've got it here on its own layer with just a black background, and I'm going to make a copy of this layer by dragging it down to the new layer icon. And now we've got layer 1 copy. And I'm switching to the move tool, which is V, and I'm just going to pull it across so that we've got two identical photos right next to each other. The first filter that I'd like to look at, we're going to apply to this photo on the right. So I'm making sure that I've selected this layer on top. This first filter is just a simple blur called the Gaussian blur, and that does about exactly what you'd expect. It takes the pixels and makes them very blurry. This can come in handy if you just want to make some brush strokes look a little bit more feathered and smooth, or if you have something in the far distance that you don't want to be quite as crisp as some of your other stuff. It's also something we can do when we're doing layer masks, which we'll discuss in detail in later lectures. But as far as filters go, this is about as simple as it gets, just a very simple blur. And you can clearly see the difference from left and right. So I'm going to deselect this visible tool, this checkbox next to each layer, and that will make this blurred image of the dog invisible. And I'm going to make another copy of the original so that we can try another filter. So here we go. I've got another one, and I'm going to take the move tool once again and just slide it over so that there are two identical images right next to one another. The next filter we're going to use is called the paint daubs filter. And we get to this by going to Filter and Filter Gallery. Now there are tons of different ones you can pick from here, and they're actually all kind of cool, and they might make you think that you can take any photo and make it look like some kind of amazing art project, but a warning, these are not magical fixes to make everything look like a cool illustration. They're just tools that you can use along the way to kind of help get certain effects a little bit better. So definitely don't use these as a crutch. They are just a tool. But that being said, paint daubs, which I have selected here, is actually a remarkably clever filter that takes a photograph and makes all the pixels just a little bit chunky and almost looks like they were painted on with brush strokes. Obviously, again, you're not going to fool anybody if you just run this filter on a photograph and tell them that you did this illustration. But when we apply photo textures to certain parts of our paintings, this filter can really help it give a much more uniform look with the rest of your painting. It gives a really nice look if you're trying to use photo textures, or you might even want to apply this to some of your own artwork just for a slightly different look. You can adjust the size of the brush strokes by sliding this bar here, and just for the sake of contrast, I'm gonna pump it up a good bit. Let's see, 14 looks good. And once you've got the settings the way you like it, I should also say sharpness is something you can adjust to. I usually keep it all the way down. It tends to make it look less painterly the higher the sharpness goes. So let's leave that down low. And I've got it set on wide blurry brush type. But those are the basic settings. And I think this looks just about right. So I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, the photos look remarkably similar, but there's just a subtly more painterly quality to the one on the right. I'll hit undo so that you can see before and then after. So we'll go back and forth a little. So it's a very subtle effect, but this can really come in handy and can really elevate your work. So it's a handy trick to keep in your back pocket.